Right. I think we're live. Hello, everybody. I don't know if this video is going to be available later, but if you're watching this later, hold on. Let me make sure I turn off my. I don't know if this video is going to be available later, but if you're watching, there it is. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if this video is going to be available later, but if it is, if it remains on the channel, then enjoy this live tech support for animators. This is something I've been thinking about for a while. I'm going to be doing this a lot more. I don't know how much a lot is, but I want to do this more frequently. I'm going to do animation tech support for Maya, animation tech support for Unreal. I'll do what I can in Blender, but I haven't been as active animating in Blender lately. But either way, I might end up doing like dedicated Unreal tech support at some point as like a different thing, just because that's more broad. But one way or another, this is animation tech support. And probably not today. I'm not totally set up for this. I just wanted to try this out. But as I get used to this, we'll make it so that you can upload your files. Like if you want to have me like look at a project file, diagnose an issue with the curve editor, or an issue with your rig or something, I'm down to open up your production file, open up your shot, and see if I can help. But I think for today, depending on how it goes, probably won't do files and file sharing today. We will likely be doing that through Discord next time. But yeah, I want to do this throughout the month of June. I mean, I'm going to do it this week, once or twice, but I also want to do it throughout the month of June and just test it out. I don't know if I'll have as much time to do it in July. We'll see, because I'm going to be teaching classes in July. Waitlists are all linked in the description if you're interested in summer animation classes. But the focus of this is just to be helpful, to hang out, to ahead of you guys, and to see if I can be useful for some animation assistance. But it'll probably be a while before we start jumping into all that, because we gotta wait for people to trickle in. I didn't put any kind of notice that I was doing this, so if you're here, hi. How is everybody doing? Also, I can't move my arms very much. I will show you why. Let's see, how do I do this? Observe. I have a little visitor on my lap. Just hanging out, having a bath. Kind of an awkward angle through my microphone, but that's the best I've got for a cat cam today. Also, you can see I just hung my new art. There. I just hung that today, like an hour and a half ago. I'm very excited about it. But you can't really see it, so back here we go. Anyway, how's it going? How are we doing today? Tonight, this evening, this morning, wherever you are, depending on your time zone. Oh, hello. You moving around? Well, we were graced with her presence for a while there. She's off to have a snack. She'll be back. Oh, I can move again. Also, this probably won't be a particularly long stream. I just kind of wanted to try this out, try the new format, the new idea. So if anybody's here and has any animation questions, feel free to ask. If you have non-animation questions, that's cool too. I imagine that eventually we'll get to the animation stuff, but if you had anything else that you were like, actually, I've been wondering this other thing, that's fine. We'll eventually get locked into a flow. I just opened Maya, so that is open and ready. If anybody has any questions, has any issues, or if you're just like, hey, show me this because I don't know how this works, or I'm confused, or I've struggled with this thing or whatever, I can try. I can try my best. The first question. Here we go. So wait, I haven't used Maya in years, and I forgot some workflow tips on IK/FK switching methods for arms or legs. I know there's some tools like Anabot, but do you usually use locators to match? Good question. I can show you some stuff in Maya if you'd like, if there's anything in particular you want to see. But to just answer your question first, FK/IK switching for arms and legs. I don't usually use locators to match, no. Typically, if I can help it, I'll usually opt not to use a rig if it doesn't have some kind of FK/IK matching system. To me, it's a non-negotiable feature that every rig should have, but sometimes you get stuck with a rig that just doesn't have it. As far as how I do it, I almost always do a single frame switch from FK to IK or vice versa. I typically don't do a blend. There are some cases where I think a blend is necessary, but I typically do a one frame switch. And as far as matching the position, the reason that I do a single frame switch is because if you don't have a rig, here's the other thing. I just made a big thing about like, I don't like rigs that don't have a snapping feature. But the way I animate is based on not having that feature, because there was a long time where I didn't have rigs that had that, and I didn't have that kind of control. Or freelance projects where they just, it's not made by someone who understands animators' workflows. And so often you don't have an FK/IK arm switch thing. So in those cases, what I will usually do, and actually maybe I'll go ahead and load up a rig here. I almost always do a single frame FK/IK switch, because you can hide the transition really easily over a single frame if the hand is in motion. So that's the most important thing, is to make the switch while the arm or the leg or whatever it is moving. If it's stationary and you need to switch it, it almost always will like pop, right? Because unless it's perfect. And so usually there's a way to either hide it, depending on like the motion. You could blend it if it had to be stationary and for some reason you had to have it switch where it needed to be in one and then needed to switch to the other. I might do a blend in that case. If it must switch while being stationary, then I would do a blend then. But almost always you can make it work with a single frame. So let me see what kind of rigs I've got. Actually, I know what rig I want. Let me just make sure I'm set to the right project in Maya. 1 second. Where's my mentorship folder? There you are. Let's go ahead and load up assets, characters. I know you can't see my screen yet. We'll get there. Who do I want to use? Let's use this one. All right. This. Let me just switch my screen so you can see what I'm doing. I need to go to screen mix. It's been a while since I've done something live. Ooh, and it's too small. Let's blow up the screen size because this is a little bit too must keep. Let's go 125. Let's see if that's big enough. No, I think 150. We're gonna have to go 150. You know what? That's like not making a difference because I have to close and reopen Maya. So please hold. Let's go ahead and reset that. One moment, please. Thought it was already, but my screen resolution was set too small. All right, Maya's gonna reopen. Also, I desperately need a new desktop background. I just stare at this like grayish color all day. I don't actually have a desktop background. I don't know why. It's been like this for like 3 years. I haven't had a desktop background. I have so much open usually that I don't notice until moments like this. I'm like, oh, it's bald. All right. Oh, that's not working. Okay, here's a fun little Maya trick for you. If your screen resolution isn't listening to you, there are a couple places you can go to tweak this. Maya kind of sucks with high density screen displays. So where do I go first? I believe I go to interface, scaling, custom scaling. I should be able to, well, let's try it. Let's just try setting it to 150 and relaunching it. See how that feels. Sometimes you have to go into like Maya's properties and like change some other internal setting. It's very annoying. Hopefully we don't need to do that. We'll see in a moment. We'll come back to this. Let's see. In the meantime, let me answer some other questions here. In your opinion, what's the most important animation principle that's a must? Most important animation principle. It's got to be timing and spacing. There's no real way to decouple those from each other, but the most important one, I guess if I had to, I would say the most important one is timing. But they're still very related. There we go. Now we can see the screen. All right. Let me get my Animbot back up. Actually, I think Animbot is going to make me re-verify my stuff. So let me first hide this from you. And then let me make sure this is going to work. It's been a minute since I've been in this version of Maya. Here we go. Licensing. Validate license. Hey, we're good. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and grab assets, characters. I'm going to use the MRigs. Big fan of those lately. Grab Mars. Right, when I pull this guy in, something else I need to do is need to regenerate the UV tile previews. And there he is. Fun little reminder for you is that if you have this issue, where a character is like fuzzing through the geometry, what you need to do is select your camera, go to your clipping plane, and crank this number up a bit. Maybe a little bit more. That should do it. Not quite enough. Happens most when you're further away. Oh, I think actually I'm supposed to hide his legs. I think his legs are actually supposed to be not there. So what I'll do is we'll switch him to shorts. Then I don't have to do anything. Go. Love these rigs. Yep, and we're good. All right. Ready. Hello, within, I'm going to do the FKIK snap in a second, but let me see the other questions too. Hello, within Animbot, I just cannot get Xfront copy paste to work and having an object be picked up. Would you mind explaining your process? I likely am just missing something simple. Yes, I can definitely show you that. Ew, yuck, use AI instead? Bye. Absolutely not. We're here for the love of the game, people. We're here for the love of the game. All right, let me I'll do 2 in 1. You know what? We had a question about IK and FK snapping, and we had a question about Animbot's X-Form prop handling, the constraint alternative. So what I'm going to do is just bring in a ball. And what I'm going to have happen is I'll go ahead and have a ball pop up, and he'll pull his arm in FK, or I don't know, IK, whatever. I'll have his arm in one or the other, and then I'll have him grab it and do something in the other one. So let's see. What am I doing? Sorry, I got a text message that my phone's buzzing over there. All right, we'll just do this. Up into the air, our graph editor. Oh, shoot. I'm using different hotkeys. I'm using Unreal hotkeys. That's not right. All right. Whoa. What is this? Disgusting. In a shocking turn of events, my Maya settings are off. Oh, yeah. They're all out of whack. Well, I guess they're not too bad. But they are messed up. Oh, wait. No, they're not. Weighted tangents are on. Why are weighted tangents not on here? Well, that's interesting. Weighted tangents. Oh, it's not. I'm just being dumb. All right. We're good. I overreacted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, one more here. In fact, we're not going as low, so maybe like this. All right. And let me actually just extend this like 2 frames. Okay, so if I have a ball, I'm going to have him catch it, and I'm going to do an FK-IK switch. And what is going on here? What is happening? What is that? Sorry, something's up with my... Oh, that's annoying. Sorry, if... I don't know if you can tell. So I'm dragging in the timeline right now. See, I'm dragging the timeline, and I'm going to drag off to the left, or off to the right, and you can see that it caps at 24, right? It stops. Something's happening right now in my computer, where if I drag all the way to the left and get to 1, if I keep dragging, see how it's jumping to 17? I don't know why. And now I'm moving I'm moving my mouse on my other monitor, and it's still controlling it. So normally I just go whoosh, and I just like slide it off to the side and slam it into the first keyframe. But because of my stupid dual monitor issue here, Maya's still holding onto my mouse on the other screen. It's being very annoying. I have to go all the way to the left side of the second screen for it to not do that. Sorry. Not important, just dumb. Anyways. All right. So let's do 2 things. Let's go ahead and just pop his arms down. We'll relax his shoulders a little bit. I'll add a little bit of a bend in the elbows. And we'll give him a slightly more forward pose. I'll take this thing, or no, this one, and give it a little bit of a something. And I'm going to take this second joint across all the fingers and just give it a little bend. like that. And just for good measure, I'm going to do a little finger grouping. Like so. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of finger grouping just to make it feel a little bit more natural. And then his arm is forward, so I'm going to go a little bit forward. There, here we go. So light posing. Just for completion, I'm also going to bend his knees the littlest bit and angle his head, so this makes a little bit more sense. This is neck forward. I'm getting carried away. I need to stop. There, good enough. All right. So what I'll have him do is I'll have him grab it. He's gonna use restraint, and he's gonna snatch it out of the air, just like a super rough thing. So a couple frames before, I'll key this part of his body. Give him a little anticipation here. There we go. And then I'll use this, tween it back. So up. And then he'll grab it. And he's going to grab it on frame 10. Frame 10 is where the ball is going to be most in front of him. I'm going to move it to its correct location. I'm also going to change it to the right size because it's kind of an awkward size. I'm also going to put it a little bit off to the side. So, well, no, I'll leave it in front of him. But that's what I'm going to have it look like. Then I'm going to fix the scale to not change. All right, so now it goes there. I'll have him track with it. Have him. And then we'll have his head go a little bit slower. There we go. Now, I'm not putting a lot of work into this, obviously, but let's just get the stuff done. So, let's say that I want to grab his arm stuff. All right, let's say that I want to switch him into IK arm for some reason and to grab it really fast. So what I'm going to do is take his entire arm, specifically the hand, forearm, upper arm, shoulder. I guess the question, this is sort of a weird case because like I wouldn't normally do this. I'm kind of manufacturing this. Normally what you would want to do is you would make sure you figure out, all right, where do I want to sort of stop being on the FK skeleton? You key it because presumably the next frame you want to be in the IK skeleton the way I normally do it. In a motion like this, I would just keep him in the FK skeleton. So it's sort of a weird one. But let's just say Yeah, sure. We'll just do it here. We'll just do a single frame here. Right now, we'll put it on the anticipation frame. So this frame 7 is my anticipation frame. We'll just go with that. So I'll just put it on this one. So what I'm going to do is if I switch him to FK and IK, see how here he is, and he does not have a blend. What I will do is this. If a character does not have any kind of a snap feature, here's a way to try to make it work. This usually works pretty well. The wrist or the hand bone, the hand control, typically is where you want your IK control to end up going. And so what I can do is I can go to modify and I can, oh, I see. That's why you're asking about locators. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good, yeah, actually now I understand why you asked it that way. That's a good way to do it. That is what I'll do in this case. So yeah, what I will do is I'll say create locator. There's now a locator sitting at his feet. I'll make it bigger so we can see it. Oops. With this. There we go. We'll take the locator and then I'll shift click this thing. I usually use Animbot, but I'll do it the vanilla way. Modify, match, transforms. So I'll put the locator where the FK hand control is. And then I will go ahead and switch him from IK to FK. Then I'll take his IK hand, take the locator, do the same thing. I will also match transforms. Now, that should have given me the same hand position, which it did. His elbow, however, is not in the right location. But we can do the same thing because the lower arm pivot is at the base of that elbow. Now this is going to get a little funky, but work with me here. I'll take another locator, duplicate the first one basically. I'll just kind of move it down a little bit and I'll say, all right, this thing, I want to modify, match, transforms. And you can see now I have an elbow location. So now when I go to my IK, I can take my little elbow pole vector and I could tell it to go to this spot. I could go modify, match, boop. Now this is a little bit weird because you don't usually want your pole vector sitting in the elbow. If I go ahead and do this, do a switch, you can see we actually have a frame perfect match. We actually were able to perfectly match it. And that's credit to Ramon, who created these rigs and did a really great job of making sure that these different bones are all pivoting off the same locations. I've seen rigs where this doesn't work. But this does work, so we can do a single frame thing. However, I usually like the elbow to, you know, the pole vector to be able to leave and not have to sit right there. And so what you could do is, how would I do this? What's the easiest way? Well, I mean, there's a variety of ways. I think for now, I'll just leave it. There's a variety of ways to try and get it out and keep the exact spot. It doesn't really matter because his arm is moving, but I'll leave it be for now. Now, here's a really important gotcha. Consider for a moment. This is the kind of stuff I usually cover in my classes, so it's a good tip for you. When you're doing an FKIK switch, if I'm doing a single frame snap, then this won't matter because I'm going to go from frame 6 to frame 7, and I'm just going to go from one to the other. And that would be fine, because here's the thing. If I go frame 6, if on frame 6 I'm in FK, if I've animated this whole little motion, 1 through 7, frames 1 through 7, if I did all that animation in FK, and I'm happy with it, and I just want to convert to being an IK on frame 7, then nothing is weird if I say, okay, 1 through 6, I'm familiar with all this, I'm going to key my IKFK controller on frame 6, and on frame 7, I'm going to do a 1 frame switch, a single frame, switch it in. There's no issue here because the animation of that arm is completely predictable. I did everything from 1 to 7 on FK, which means I'm keeping it all the same from 1 to 6, and then 7 is a match of FK, which means that everything from 1 through 7 is still exactly as I left it. And that's fine. That is actually, and that's why another reason why I usually stick to single frame. But if for some reason I was like, you know what? It makes more sense for me to blend. So let's say I'm going to go from frame 4 or something. If I go from frame 4 and say, all right, frame 4, I want to be an FK, and by frame 7, I want to be an IK. This is going to be slightly different now. The animation will be slightly different and slightly not under my full control because of how this has been done. And the reason for that, if anyone can guess, feel free to guess. But the reason, think about it, why it's different, is because currently the only keyframe on the IK arm is on frame 7. Which means if our animation is starting on frame 1 in the FK skeleton, and he's coming from this like middle position, and he's going to work his way to this arm going off to screen left, the IK control that we're eventually going to, where is that control sitting on frame 1? Still in the final location. Like this IK hand control that I'm not using until frame 7, it's technically still sitting right there on frame 1. And as we get to frame 4, when the blend will start to happen, right? Because if that's the idea, that as of 4, we start blending between FK and IK. The thing is, if I go to frame 5, we're not yet fully into the IK skeleton, but this hand, this IK hand control, you can see it does still have some amount of influence. In this particular case, this is not going to be a very big deal. Probably no one is going to notice. However, if this is a really big motion and we're doing an FK-IK blend, you need to make sure that whatever frame you start the blend on, in this case, that's frame 4, you need to make sure that on that frame, you also make sure that the IK skeleton, that's not really in use yet, matches the position of the FK skeleton on that frame as well, so that the interpolations from one to the other are consistent across FK and across IK skeletons and control systems. I'm getting really deep into this, but this is a really easy gotcha that I don't know when I learned this, but I learned this well after I had finished animation school. Like this had never been, I had never seen this before. And I think I was just struggling. I was just struggling with a shot and I was like, what is going on with this? It must have been when I was at DreamWorks. I don't remember. Actually, no, I do remember. It was when I was at DreamWorks because we had an FK-IK skeleton debug tool that I had never seen before. And that's how I discovered that this was happening. It was really useful. But anyway, yes. So it wasn't until I was dealing with a shot where my arm was doing this weird thing. I had a weird arc and I was like, why is the arc goofy? I didn't key that. I keyed a perfect arc. Why is it doing weird things? And it was because the invisible IK skeleton control was pulling the hand away from the arc I had designed for it. And I had to make the keyframes across the skeletons match so that they had the same interpolation and the same arc that I wanted. Then it could blend from one to the other within the arc. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyways, if I do a single frame switch, that's why it doesn't really matter, because I'm still in control from 1 to 6, and then 7, it just lands where I told it to be. And so now I'll do the actual final adjustment, right? So here, now I'm in IK, that works. This is not how I normally do it. Normally I will do it in a large, fast action. Like for example, what I would usually do if for some reason I was, you know what, I'll show you what I normally do. I'm just going to do a little bit more stylized of a choice here. I'm going to have him grab it on frame 10, right? Right there. Boom. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to frame 9. I'm going to key us in FK. And I'm going to do a little pose adjustment here. I'm just going to go here. And I'm just going to make this adjustment to where 2 frames before he like gets ready. So now we have this, the ball comes up, his arm kind of comes out, but then 2 frames before, his body starts to kind of move in the direction he's about to go. So we start easing into the motion with his body, but his arm is not yet coming along for the ride, but his hand is sort of preparing. And then bam, on frame 10, I want to have him grab the ball immediately. So this is a better example of what I would normally do. Now what I'll do is I will say, all right, give me the IK control, boop. And you can see it's not consistent because I haven't snapped it on frame 10 yet. But that's fine because what I want to have happen, I'll key it on frame 9 so it stays over there somewhere. On frame 10, what I want to have happen is when I switch it into IK, bam, I want to just send it. I want the change between where the hand was and where the hand is to be so drastic on purpose that it didn't matter that it wasn't a perfect switch from FK to IK. Like I'm in FK all the way to here, and all I'm doing is using it to sort of get a little bit of an anticipation going because boom, I'm doing something different. No one's gonna know I switched from FK to IK because the hand is simply moving. You would never notice like a slight pop because it's not close enough to see that. It's such a big difference. It doesn't matter what skeleton I'm using. It's just doing its own thing. That's almost always how I tend to do these types of switches. And so I'll just go ahead and do the sorry, text messages. Let's go ahead and do the constraint thing here. So first, I guess what I'll do is finish off a little bit of body motion here. And let's go ahead and take a look. Further. Boom. Yeah, good enough. I mean, whatever. Adding a little bit of overshoot. All right. So now I have just like the rough idea of a grab. So what I'll do is I'll pose the hand. I always like to get the hand in the pose that I like before I do the attachment. So we'll just do like a rough Just a rough grab here. Boom, boom, boom. Nope. Grab that, not you. Fingertips. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the ball position a little bit because there's no reason I can't adjust the ball too. I'm even going to just kind of twist it and do a little squashy stretchy. Fit it into the hand better. So pull this out. Also, I can use these. Where are those? Use these a little bit if I need. If I'm really worried about it. So. Now the hand is grabbing it fine and not... Oops, that's the wrong finger control. Grab that. Do one of these. There. So now he's got this really ugly grip. It actually looks terrible. I was just putting the fingers to make it look not as weird. There. So what I'll do, when you're dealing with the X-Form tool for Anibot, there are two ways to use it. There is a way for posing, and there's a way for like constraining animation that's already been done. How that works is there are two modes. So down here in my little Anibot menu, you can see all these fun little colorful icons. The X-Form one is this link, this little chain, pink chain. And if I right click it, I'll pull this up. We have the auto X-Form relationship, which is the one for posing. And we have the copy pasting, which is for already done animation, which is what I've now set us up for. I'll show you both. If I do, I believe you go parent object, or sorry, I think you go child object, then thing you want to attach it to. We go X-Form relationship. Let me double check if I got that right. Yep, that was it. So when you have the auto X-Form relationship turned on, what will happen is it will maintain a relationship as if it were constrained, which works great. However, that's really just handy for like blocking in motions. That is not going to help us since we already have all this animation, because you can see it's now, it like leaves it behind. And it's weird because I can move this around and it'll pop in there. So technically I can still like block stuff in after the fact. Like this. Nope, nope, come on. Wake up. Okay, now it doesn't want to do it. Sometimes it'll pop in. I guess it's not going to do it right now. Yeah, no, it's not going to do it. But anyways, this is good if you're like, I'm going to attach these objects and then I'm going to animate. But I'm not doing that. I've already kind of set up some animation. What I want to have happen is I want to take the relationship between these two objects, which is child object, then I'm using the finger in this particular case. I'm going to copy the relationship, and I don't use any of these buttons to do it. I'm just going to click on the little chain to do it. Boop. That copies that relationship of those two objects. And then I'm going to do this all the way until frame 24. So I'm just going to go 11, 24. I could have done 10 too, but I came from 10, so let's leave it be. And now I'm going to go paste bake. Because I could just paste XFrame relationship, but that'll just do it on a frame. I could do it to next frame. I can do it to all keys, which is all keys will be helpful because all keys is going to be every key I've already set, which that could be potentially helpful. But I'm just going to do it to bake frames because I have a whole range of keys of frames here that I care about. And so that's why I selected that first. Then I paste bake. And that's it. It's some pretty ugly animation, but that's the idea. So that is FK and IK blending, matching, switching alongside XForm auto and paste bake. And yes, you do need to do it, bake it down on ones. Like I said, if you are blocking and you're just doing keys every so often, you can use the auto relationship to sort of help you with your posing. But the interpolation between the hand, actually I'll show you, the interpolation between the hand and the, actually I'll do this. Let me go ahead and undo that bake, right? So I'll undo the bake. I'll go to frame 10, I'll do this again, and I'll show you what happens if I don't do baking. If I go U, this time I'll go ball to hand, and I'll copy the relationship. I'll select this range, and I'll paste relationship to all keys. That might have broken the beginning. Yeah, it broke the beginning. Whoa, wait, I'm sliding stuff. Yeah, so that screwed up the beginning because it did it to all keys, which I didn't want it for the beginning, so I broke the beginning. That's fine, I can get back to that later. But here what I did, just to demonstrate, is I used paste relationship all keys, which is going to look great for these specific keyframes, right? Right? So this part looks correct. I'm stepping through them. But if I start to click and drag, see that? See that like sliding? How the ball and the hand are not matching each other? Because the ball's transform, like pivot point is within itself. And the hand is rotating from the wrist. So they have a shared relationship on the frames where they have keys, but in between, to get from A to B, that interpolation is going to look different between these two objects, and so they don't match up. And so in order to use the XForm relationship as constraint alternative, you have to undo, 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 not limit it just to the specific keys you've set, but you have to bake it to the whole thing. So once again, object, parent object, copy. I like to select my range, paste bake frames on ones, and then that will attach it per frame and maintain that relationship. Now that can be annoying to people because they go, oh, I have to bake it on ones. But realistically, baking things on ones is only annoying when you have to be in there like micromanaging all those keys, because then it's like, oh my God, it's on ones, I have so much to do. But in this case, if you're like, oh no, I've changed the animation, I have like altered something about the up and down of the hand here. I'm gonna have the hand like dip lower. I'm gonna have the whole hand like come way down. And I'm gonna have it like in over there. I'm gonna have it come up more. So I'll do less and then more, that, like that. And then Z. Nope, wrong way. I want the other way. Right, so let's say I'm changing all this stuff. So now, okay, I've tweaked the position of the hand. Like, oh no, I have all these keys that were on ones on this ball. What do I do? Well, luckily, I mean, as long as I keep one frame where they're in contact, which is easy, because if I'm like, oh no, I need to change this frame, that's fine. Like, I just need one frame where they're in the right position. So if I'm like, shoot, I do need to change this key, then I do the same thing. I say, okay, let me just quickly auto XForm. This is the one frame I need to like deal with. So then in this one frame, I will make an adjustment to the hand pose and say, I want it over here and I want it tweaked or whatever. And now that's fine. Like now I've done my change. I still have one frame where they match perfectly. And I can say, all right, now I have all this other animation that's like wrong. So I go 1, 2, copy. All the rest of these keyframes, paste bake. And so the fact that it's on ones is not that big of a deal because the tool is handling it all for us. All right. And I got to turn on cache playback or something because my gosh, why is it being so slow? There's like a hitch. I don't know why there's a hitch, but there's a hitch. Anyway, it's some really ugly animation, but that's how that works. And also, if this was like, wow, how helpful. Reminder of the links in the description and also I think in the pinned comment, summer animation classes. I'm going to be launching them in a week. And this is the exact kind of stuff I do in those classes. So if you're like, wow, I want more of this, then, consider joining one of the classes. Or at least putting your name on the wait list so you can get notified when they come out in case you're like curious what they're going to be. Lots of fun stuff. Let's see. What would you recommend to someone that has no balls to just let a moving hold and keeps adding arbitrary overshoot upon overshoot and can't keep anything still? That's a good question. If you don't have the gumption, let's say, to just let a moving hold be a hold, you should do a much smaller assignment, a little exercise where you force yourself to literally do just that, but in a contained sort of way where, like, if you have too much to do, you'll start to noodle, and then that's where you break the rule. Honestly, you just have to, like, make yourself, but take it to an extreme. Do some kind of moving hold shot where there is no animation during a moving hold. Maybe add it later, but, like, during the first phase of animating it, I would say if you're struggling to like let it be, then like exposure therapy, like really make yourself crank it to 11 and just see what it looks like and see how it is. But pick a type of shot that will be like well served by that. Pick something like really cartoony or something that or even if what you could do as well, find an example from a recent movie or TV show or game. Find a shot that looks like it's got some really nice moving hold style animation and do a master study. Like trace it, copy it. Don't put it as a demo reel piece because that's plagiarism, but like try to see if you can replicate it. Because then you'll get a sense of like how to do it or how based on how they did it. You'll get a sense of how to do it correctly. You'll get to see how it feels to try and set those keys. And chances are you'll find little eases and overshoots that exist anyways, and then you'll get to see for yourself how it feels to do them based on that work. That's my recommendation. Thoughts on the new Unreal Engine 6 Rocket League? I haven't seen anything official about that yet. I mean, maybe there's something I just missed it, but I haven't noticed. I haven't seen anything yet. Unreal 5.8 just came out. I don't think there's anything out for Unreal 6 yet. They just locked 5. Well, they're not even locked. 5.8's in preview, which is what my classes will be on. So I've been digging into it. P.S. If anybody's doing Unreal Engine stuff, if you're going to Unreal Fest, say hi. I'm going to be at Unreal Fest. I'm giving an animation lab. I'll be doing a 1-hour animation demo of various professional workflows that industry animators are always looking for and how to do them in Unreal. Some of them are like how to do it in Unreal versus Maya or Blender. And some of them are like, look what you can do in Unreal because you can't do this anywhere else. So if you're going to Unreal Fest, come say hi. P.S. Loved your Metroid effect animation tutorial with polygons. Oh, thank you. That's an old video. That was a fun one though. So wait, I'm working on a school project. Can you show a quick step-by-step workflow of how you clean up curves and lock down spacing for a heavy movement like a desk clean? Ooh, let me take that again. I'm working on a school project. Could you show a quick step-by-step workflow of how you clean up curves and lock down spacing for heavy movement, like a desk lean? Well, that's not exactly quick. I have to have curves to clean up. I would say flip those first of all. Your spacing, your timing and your spacing come first. And you figure that out before you worry about curve cleanup. So if you haven't locked down your spacing and your timing, don't worry about curves yet. It's not time to clean them up. Get the timing and spacing nailed first thing. I'm going to recommend one of my videos to you. You should watch this one. Why your stepped animation sucks in Spline. Go watch that. Can I like link to this? Share. Copy. There's the video. Watch that video. It talks about the process of getting your splines. Like it talks about that process. So that's the first thing. It talks about the timing and the spacing part of it, especially. Once you've done that, how to clean up the curves, I guess what I would say, I can't necessarily do a step-by-step workflow of cleaning up curves because there's so many different ways to approach it depending on the workflow that you're using up until that point. So I can't exactly presume to just say, here's how you should do it. What I would need to do is say, hey, send me your Maya file. Let me look at the curves and the keys that you've got going on and see what cleanup looks like within your shot. And then from there, I can give you some tips as to what you're looking for and what you're looking to fix. What I can do, I can give you some red flags. I can tell you some things to look out for, to be on the hunt for. I just noticed he's like staring at us with like a dead-eyed stare, so I wanted to just fix him a little bit. I just got really distracted by his blank, vacant expression. Look, he's happy. He says, thanks for being here, guys. Although, he feels a little bit creepy. Let's like fix that up a little bit. Oh no, am I crashing? I feel like Maya's crashing. Whoa, I wonder. Uh-oh, 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 I think it's crashing. I guess we'll find out. All right, it wants me to answer your question. Things to look out for in the graph editor. The things that are red flags are not necessarily things that need to be changed, but they're things that you need to be on the lookout to make sure they're doing what you want them to be doing. Curves that are entirely flat, especially after they've been moving, if they just stop moving. Anything that has like a bunch of direction changes. Oh, yep, there it went. Bye, Maya. Guess what I didn't do? Save. I didn't save, so that's all gone. It's fine, I was done with it, but I hope you got what you needed from it, because that file's not coming back. Always save your files. I don't often do that when I'm doing demos, but it's all good. I consciously at one point was like, I haven't saved. Like, it's fine. I got through what I needed to. So flat curves, especially before or after movement, anytime there's a lot of direction changes on a single curve, anything that's like too pointy, like a direction change that well, it's not about a direction change necessarily, but any curve that has a really sudden acceleration or deceleration, especially if it changes its mind after the fact. These are not super specific, but like there's a couple things where you're just like, huh, that's a weird shape. Anytime the curve is doing something that's just like, that looks weird, don't go and automatically like get rid of it, but go and look and find out what it does. And then if you like it, keep it, maybe even add to it. But if you don't like what it does, then correct it. But don't just be like, I want everything to be smooth and pretty, because smooth curves don't mean smooth animation necessarily. I'll give you one more tip though. When it is time to clean up the curves of the graph editor, here's a fun little thing for you. If you're like really not sure, if you're like, oh, I've got a bunch of these curves and like I think they're pretty good, but I got to start messing with stuff. Use buffer curves. Select your curves, right click and say, oh no, it's not a right click menu, that's right. Select your curves and you're gonna click this little button right here. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's the squiggly line down arrow to a little arc. It's right here. And you need your graph editor fully expanded to see it. If it's too narrow, you won't see it here. So you gotta make sure you got some room to breathe. But you grab your curves and you click this buffer curve snapshot. And it'll look like nothing happens. But if I now move one of these curves, if you look closely, see this little gray outline? This shows me where that curve was a second ago. So now what I can do is I can come and just start like messing with stuff. And I don't know what I've done to this poor sphere. There you go. It's doing whatever. But the thing is, each of these curves will now display. I'm trying to show you in an easy way here. All these curves will now display like a past version of themselves. Like this one, this blue one. It used to be here. You can see that it used to be right in that position. Now it's here. And so it gives you a good way to kind of keep track of what you've changed. So if you're like, I'm going to do curve cleanup, buffer your curves so that when you change them, you have an easy way to cycle back and forth. If you save and close Maya, you lose the buffer curve. So don't feel like that's some permanent thing. It's good while you're like in a working session, but you can't rely on it like long term. It's just like a handy tool for, you know, part of what you're doing. So if you are interested in more of that, I have a video that covers a lot of that kind of stuff. It's like a graph editor, like why the graph editor is an animator's best friend or something like that. Go to my channel. There's a video that shows that in more detail. And then if you want like a lot more detail, again, that's what's in my classes. But that's a really handy tool for when you are doing curve cleanup. How can I start animation as a beginner? Just start. Find something you admire, watch it, try to analyze it, try to understand how it was done, try to really pick it apart and like understand what is going on behind the scenes. Watch some behind the scenes videos of the stuff you enjoy, and then just start trying to animate. There's a more formal way to do it, sure, which is like, you know, read a book, watch some videos, take some classes, you know, watch my tutorials for free on YouTube, that kind of stuff. Like that's all fair game, but the best way to start getting good at animation is to start animating. I do have classes for beginners, but you know, if you're just beginning, you don't even have to spend any money. Just, you know, download Blender, watch a tutorial. I have a video on getting started with animation in Blender. If you're like, need the quick crash course, do your thing. So I have a shot where the prop pen is in the mouth and then the hand, wait, hold on. So I have a shot where the prop pen is in the mouth, then in the hand, then lands on the table. Would I be better to set up a classic parent constraint between multiple controls than blend parent 0 to 1? It's really up to you. I typically do a full constraint setup just because I'm used to doing it that way and I like constraints for some weird reason. I've gotten very good at them and I just understand them really well. So I typically will do constraints. Actually, I can explain that better. Because you could just use Animbot's Xform tool and then just, you know, put the pen wherever. Where the Xform tool really shines is when you want a prop following an object, but not necessarily like doing its own offset animation independently. So like if I have a character holding a pen, here. If I have a character holding a pen, let me go ahead and make this bigger. If I have a character, they're holding a prop, and that prop is a pen, and it's in the mouth, and then the hand, and then they set it down somewhere. if the hand is always in control of the pen, and the pen never needs to like wiggle on its own or twist on its own or like do anything, like if it's just a pen, then you're probably just fine using the X-Form stuff, because you can really just rely on this pen attached to the hand and it's not going to really get changed. If I throw it into the air and they're decoupled for a little bit and then it's like, oh, now it's got its own independent animation until it falls in the hand, that's also fine, because then like there's no reason why it needs to be like absorbing an X-Form transformation. But if, for example, you were holding a phone and the phone were overheating and then shaking because it's going to explode, I wouldn't necessarily go for the X-Form stuff, because you can. There's no reason why you can't, because you can absolutely do a first pass of keys that's like following the hand, and then you can always add additional animation on top of that, sure, and then adjust the fingers. That totally works. There's no reason why you can't do that. The reason I say that, like the only reason that I even stand by constraints being more useful in some cases is because the way I use constraints, I will typically do multi-locator setup constraint setups or systems where the locators are positioned in strategic points on the mesh, to where if I had, a phone in a hand, the phone wants to rotate from the middle, most likely, right? But I might want to rotate from this little edge. And so I may set up a constraint system where there's a locator on this finger or like on this like point here, so that I can twist it from here. I might have another one here, so I could go from here. And so I like to build constraint setups where I get multiple points of rotation. And if I'm going to like put it places, I can use those along the way to do useful things with my animation, depending on the shot. That said, you can also just use the Anibot temp pivot and alongside with X-Form and get the same effect. I'm just used to doing the constraint method. So that's a really long-winded way of saying it doesn't really matter. It's up to your preference. You absolutely could do multiple controls, the blend parents, all that stuff, but you also could just use X-Form and temp pivot, and honestly that's probably faster, because you have to pre-set up constraints if you want to have them like optimally set up. You can still make them as you go, but gets a little bit messier. So your call. How would you approach, how would you approach a polygon effect animation like the Hadoken? Marvel vs. Capcom was thinking of using your metric tutorial to imitate the sprite shapes of animating the vertices. How would you approach a polygon effect animation? How would I approach that? How would I approach that? Let me think about that for a second. Let's pull up a quick reference image. If I were going to do like the classic, like if we're going to do like this, like the classic little sprite thing of like, Hadouken, right? I think what I would do, I'd start with big shapes. I'd start with a circle, a sphere. I start with a circle. I'd probably shave off the back a little bit. Try to get the general shape. And then I need something for like spikiness. So I guess I'd go for, honestly, I'd probably just use the super shape like I did in that Metroid video. Gotta love the super shape. I'd go for something with these like ultra high harmonics or something. Let's see, what is it I do? I just forget which ones do what. Oh, there we go. Let's see. What do I do? I always forget. I always have to like reteach myself how these things function. Am I dumb? What's going on here? I don't remember how to do these. Oh, let me just grab all of them. Huh. I forget how to mess with that. I gotta remind myself. But I guess I do something like this. And then I'd compress it. Not that much. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that I take a couple of these and like go like that. Go like that. Maybe another one like that. I take all these. And then I'll take them all and I'll merge them with the modeling tools. Mesh, combine, where's combine? Combine, like that. And then I'll take a lattice or something. Or maybe a deformer. Maybe a deformer would make more sense, non-linear deformer. And I'll do like a... Let me try like a flare or a squash. Let's try a squash. And then let me adjust the size of it. Oops. No, I don't like the squash. Squash is not doing it for me. Let's try again. Let's do deform. Let's do nonlinear. Let's try like a... I think flare should do it. If I rotate it. Let's try flare. It's not quite doing what I want either. All right, let's just do it the hard way. I'll just do a lattice. If I just grab a lattice, I'll go ahead and do... do 3 by 3 by 3. I feel like Maya's not updating, actually. That's what I think is happening. Can't tell. Well, whatever. I'll take that. Take the lattice points. And I'll just kind of try to bow it out a little bit. Take these. Those. That. I should have compressed them more together before I moved everything. Yeah, I should have squished them all. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do that really quick. Even though they're mesh combined, I can still adjust them because they don't share all their edges. Yeah. So now go like that. It needs to be bigger, so let's go ahead and scale it up. I guess it's actually not very pointy in the front though. So let's try to use the lattice to punch in the front. Well, that made it really ugly. But I'm going to leave it pointy. And with the understanding that I would probably just want to like shave that down. Which actually, I know how I could do that a different way, which maybe I'll come back to. And then let's go ahead and just like, here's what I'll do. I'll duplicate that mesh so I can just get a copy of it. And I'm just going to literally just take the one that's still here. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to pull it back like that and just really stretch it. I'm going to create little back fins. And sure, we'll call that fine. Take this, duplicate that one more time. Then I'll take this. Let's see, which one is my... These guys. Take all those, I'll just delete them. And then let me do this one at a time. So I'll take this thing, and I'm going to try to use the sculpting tools. And I'm going to try to do a smooth brush. Get my brush down to a reasonable size. The brush is really big for some reason. There we go. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Come on, flatten it. Go away. It's not strong enough. Let me crank the size down to like 0.5. And strength is fine. Oh, hello, kitty cat. And let's just try the flatten. Let's try level. Hello. This isn't working. Let's take all this here. Let's do it the manual way. Oh, it's way faster. I don't know what I was thinking before. Sure. And then I'll take this one. Same thing. Vertex. Take all this. Smoosh. Did that to get some variety. And then maybe I should probably do something about this too. That looks atrocious, but whatever. That looks so bad. You get the gist. So then when I'm done with all this, I'm just going to go ahead and assign a material to all of this. Surface shader. Make it white. This one I'll make... Oh wait, no, I got to do each one individually. This one we'll do a new surface shader. We'll do a gradient ramp or something. Get a nice blue. Switch it up here. Something like that, maybe. Then I'll do the same thing. That one. And then this one, I'm going to just duplicate this and turn it black. Actually, no, I got to make a new one. Surface shader. I would probably use like a Fresnel for something, but I don't have patience right now to like jump in with a full Hypershade setup. So I'll just do like a ramp. And I'll just do one more of these. Blue. A little bit of noise. Bump up the frequency a bit. See if I can do something with this, like, let's see, diagonal ramp looks the coolest. Oh, there we go. Circular ramp's kind of cool. Yeah, maybe do that. Make it not quite so stark. I was trying to get black in there because it has it right there, but I don't know where I want to put it is my problem. Like, it doesn't feel right the way I'm doing it, but there's probably some way to work it in. I mean, you could just spend more time art directing it. I guess that's the thing. You'd spend more time art directing it. In fact, I don't really like this noise thing like I thought I would. I think I'm just going to go back to a non-noisy thing. U-ramp, U-ramp. That. Fall off like that. Yeah, and then from there you just, tweak and play and try to find the look. But that's sort of like, it doesn't look very good. It doesn't look very good, honestly, which is a little bit of a bummer. But if I cheat the camera angles, maybe there's a way to do it. Anyway, you get the gist. Like, that's sort of how I would go about something like that. You know? Oh, there's a lot of questions here. I see one at the bottom that seems relevant right now. How do you make transparent from ramp texture? Transparent from ramp texture? You go to the out transparency. So like here, for example, if I go into this thing and I went out transparency and then use the ramp, that should, yeah. There you go. That'll give you, there we go. That'll give you control over the transparency. Is that what you're wondering? Like that? What I'd recommend, though, is if you're going to do transparency stuff, I'd recommend just opening up the Hypershade editor. And which one is this? This is Surface Shader 2. I'd recommend just throwing it in the Hypershade and then graphing it, because then you can actually see what you're doing. And you can see what's going into transparency. So it's like, oh, there's the transparency, and it's coming from the color of this ramp and things like that. So you have a little bit more visibility into what's going where. And you could even reuse, like if you're like, oh no, I'm using the same, like if you want to see a visual representation, you can take your color and throw it into both. So it makes it a little bit easier to see, like, oh, that's where I'm adjusting, That way, if I do this, now I can see that, anywhere that I'm going to have, let's do this. So if I go like this, now I can see that anywhere where there's white, it's going to stay. Anywhere where there's black, it's going to disappear. And it's going to be very predictable. That now I know everything that's black here is about to be chopped off if I go like this. Or actually, it seems to be inverted. seems to be inverted. So I guess I could do a reverse node. There you go. Then you get what you're expecting, and then I can take the color, plug it back in, and then it's going to be the color that you wanted. So anyway, but that's what's so nice about the visuals, is that you get to actually see what you're doing. All right, I've missed a lot of questions here. I'm going to rapid fire through some of these. And how long have I been streaming? I've been streaming for... How do I see that? Oh, I've been streaming for like an hour and a half. That's about as long as I was intending to stream for. So I guess I'll answer these questions and we'll see what happens. Oh wow, there's a lot more than I expected. I was really in the zone, I guess. All right, I'm gonna try to answer everything that's here. Couldn't finish school, only got to body mechanics. Any suggestions into how to keep going? With the market as terrible as it is right now, any suggestions to have a professional path, a proper professional path? I hear you. It's rough out there. I mean, you definitely want to learn the stuff, and it's a lot easier to have someone teach you. You can self-teach, but it is a lot more difficult. My honest recommendation is to check out my classes, because that's what they're made for. They're made to be more affordable and very good. But doesn't have to be me. It can be other people. I would say that any kind of, mentorship-based learning is very valuable. Anything where you get feedback from somebody who knows what they're talking about, who works in the industry, and is a good teacher, There's a lot of good options for that. At the very least, you should just be doing all that you can to practice, to analyze, develop your eye, and to spend time doing the work. It's the best thing you can do. Beyond that, it's learn from somebody. I hope that's somewhat helpful. So wait, I always hesitate when I'm animating the arms on how to balance the rotations among shoulder, upper, and lower arms. Could you share some tips when posing the arm? How to balance the rotations among shoulder, upper, and lower arms. Something that I like to do is, if you are like deep in the rotations of an arm, here, I'm gonna go full screen because I'm gonna be verbally discussing a lot of these for the moment. If you're doing the arm stuff, I find it to be very helpful. If you're lost in rotations and you're trying to be very specific about rotations, anytime you're in a position and you're like, I want to now pose to this spot, what I don't do, I don't grab the rotation orb and just spin the arm into position. I never do that, ever. I always grab specific axes and rotate each axis of rotation individually, piece by piece. And another thing that can be really helpful, depending on your shot, is if you're in a certain pose and you're like, okay, great, now I want to move from here to a different arm pose that's not very similar to this, I'll reset the entire arm and then channel by channel put it where I want it. I don't always do that, but if I'm going from like something way over here to something way over here, I do find it useful to fully reset and then redo it. It keeps me from getting gimbal locked that way. To be very specific about your rotation channels and to keep things like really well oriented to where you know where they are, it keeps you from having big rotational issues. That's my tip. But I would also say that, like, if you don't do it that way, it is not the end of the world to have to like fix that stuff. If you understand the problem, it can be solved without too much headache most of the time. Unless you have a rig with such a bad rotation order that like you're constantly fighting gimbal lock, then that's rough. That sucks. Hopefully you catch that early on and then can do something different with your workflow, because that's no fun. You'll get like 10 animations in before you start liking what you're making. Highly suggest just grabbing a model and going for it. Agree. I'm using Cinema 4D, trying to use soft body dynamics on a rigged character, but once it's active, the skeleton can't control the soft body mesh. How can I fix that? I'm not very experienced with Cinema 4D, so I don't know specifically. I guess it depends. I mean, I understand the theory of it. Like, I don't know what buttons you click in Cinema 4D to do these things, but I know that typically once you do some kind of dynamic setup, that takes over from the rig. So I guess my question is, what is it you're trying to actually accomplish? Like, what are you trying to do where you must add soft body dynamics while also trying to deal with rigged animation? Is it something that you can just animate by hand with the rig? Or do you need to like give control over to the dynamics at a certain point and then like the character like ragdolls and then you need to like stand back up with the rig or something? Like you might have to get creative cheating it. I don't know though, because I don't know what it is you're trying to do. But chances are, once you give control over the dynamic system, often you can't go back to, not that you can't go back to rig, but often you're sort of like, you're feeding in a totally different set of values, and there's not often an easy way to switch back. I could be entirely wrong, because I don't know Cinema 4D that well, but that's generally the way things go in most 3D tools. So wait, right now I'm applying to jobs and wondering how I cater my portfolio to mocap work with only one piece, but I've worked extensively with, how to cater your portfolio to mocap work with only one piece, but you've worked extensively with it. I'm not sure I understand then. If you've worked extensively with it, but you only have one piece of work, does that just mean you have really like one really big piece of work? Or you just like don't have access to the stuff you did? If you're trying to cater your portfolio to mocap, you should have a portfolio that shows off a lot of mocap. And so if you have a lot of experience, but you only have one project, then unfortunately, you're just going to have to make more stuff. You can like demonstrate a few different skills here and there within a one piece of work. But I mean, if you've only got one clip to show, you're going to have to make more if you can't get access to the other work you've done. So Wade, love your videos. Also, just a reminder for everybody. My first name is Sir. I go by Sir professionally. Wade is a middle name. So I go by Sir Wade on YouTube because it's my first and my middle name, but I don't go by my middle name typically. I just go by my first name or the combination of the two. So, love your videos. I made a horrible mistake. I want to make games, but I just waste my time thinking about what I should do in life. Now I think I'm losing my skills over time too. Love the way you introed that question. I made a horrible mistake. I want to make games, but I waste too much time about thinking I should. I mean, it sounds like you know the problem. You want to make games, but you waste time not making games. Therefore, make games. If there's something you want to do, don't worry about like what it is you should be doing. If you know what you want to do, then try to block out some time to do that thing. Your skills will get rusty over time, and there's nothing you can do about that except for use the skills. So if that's what you want, then do what you can to move forward in that direction. I say it like it's easy. I know it's sometimes not, but that's the advice. Good luck. Let's see. Oh yeah, someone actually said something similar. You won't lose skills, they'll just get rusty. Yeah, there you go. Do I use Unreal Engine also? Yes, I am. I'm very good at Unreal Engine at this point. I used to be really bad at Unreal Engine, and then I was okay. And now I would say that I'm actually pretty solid. I would say I'm very solid, actually. I need to stop trying to be like modest about it. I work with Epic Games as a contractor. I do a lot of training for Unreal Engine, professional training, and I am considered, I won't make the claim for myself, but I will say that it is an accurate statement to say I am considered one of the experts in Unreal Engine for animation related things. And I will be at Unreal Fest giving a talk. I did last year, and I'll be doing a lab this year. So if you're interested in learning Unreal Engine, link in the description for my Unreal Engine classes. I've got Maya and animation classes coming this summer. I also have Unreal Engine classes coming this summer. So there's a link for each of those different forms for those two different things, because they're kind of different skill sets a lot of the time. I mean, yeah, they're there if you want them. Check it out. Do you have tips for animating snappier, more cartoony TV animation style? Because there aren't many tutorials that explain animation for TV. I mean, yes, I do have tips, but none that I can just like throw at you. I guess where the workflow is faster paced. Tips for animating snappier, more cartoony TV style. I mean, typically, I'd say it's very common to have a very pose-to-pose, like blocking heavy style, where you almost treat it like a layered system. I mean, it's very common to have a pose-to-pose, do it in layers approach to fast-paced animation, where it's like, I'm going to block out my main poses. Now I'm going to add my anticipations. Now I'm going to add my overshoots. Now I'm going to add my breakdowns. Now I'm going to add, I don't know, things like that. You kind of like, you'll add it in passes. That's very common because you can get the main ideas quickly, and then you can sort of break down the shot to just like, you can turn it into like a process of like, all right, figure out the actions, great, block those in, adjust the timing, cool, anticipations, a timing, cool, next thing, timing, next thing, timing. And so you kind of go back and forth between like keying in new information and then making sure it's in the right spot, and doing it like that makes it easier to adjust stuff because everything's on the same consistent keys. There comes a point where you then have to start, you have to be good at like then breaking it all apart so it doesn't feel very pose to pose. That's the hard part, but that's one of the faster and more common workflows. It's more well documented. I mean, it's not in very many videos, but that's more well documented, as opposed to a more spline-based method, which is also super fast, but it's less common to see it. Hi, Sir Wade. I've burned myself out. I feel like I've lost all my creativity and imagination. Any words of advice for resetting? I work in animation for my job, so kind of important. I feel you. I understand. I'm sorry. That's rough. Yeah, I mean, my solution to getting burned out and just feeling like you've lost your spark is always to return to the root and the seed of where that grew from. Like whatever stuff you really liked that got you into it in the first place, return to that. Obviously there's the stuff of like, take a break, take a step back. All, you know, that's all helpful. Like if you can take time to go for a walk, but like if you're working and you have deadlines, it's not really easy to be like, take the weekend, or, you know, take a week and go on a hiatus. You can't always do that. And so what I would say is really try to return to the things that brought you the initial joy that got you started on this journey. As like my first piece of advice, for me, that's certain kinds of video games, really like open-ended, open world exploration games. Honestly, games like Zelda, Minecraft, Fallout, like anything that's just like, you can just roam around. Terraria is fun. Anything where you can just roam around. That's like one version, because I just like the feeling of like open exploration. That to me is like freeing in a way that if I only have a certain amount of time, that makes me feel like it frees up my brain to just sort of exist in a vacuum. But then more relevant to the topic is like the games that are inspiring, or the movies that I've always loved, or I don't know if there's like watching Dragon Ball Z for some reason. That's a great example of, for me. It's like, is the animation in Dragon Ball Z like absolutely incredible? Not usually, but there's a certain magic in it that's like, it brings me back to when I was like, oh yeah, like, it's cool. Oh, I love this. It's cool. Anything where you go, oh, that's cool. So that's like one part of it. Another thing you can do that I find really, really helpful, and it pairs really nicely, is like go watch behind the scenes content, like the making of something interesting. Any kind of behind the scenes documentary, wildly inspiring to me anyway. For example, if you go on YouTube and you look up, here. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Hang on. Let me pull this back up. There. NoClip. I'll drop this in the chat. NoClip documentaries, I love these things. They make some amazing, they go into the studios during the height of production and they'll record stuff, and then they'll put out these amazing documentaries about like what goes into these games. I was not like particularly, I came from film animation. I came from, you know, the world of DreamWorks and Disney and Pixar, and like that was what was in my head. And I started watching these videos and I was like, oh my God, games are so cool. And I got like wildly inspired to start pursuing more game engine stuff. And I also really recommend, there's a God of War making of that's really, really good. There's plenty of stuff for movies, special features, all that kind of stuff. So if you're feeling burnt out, I say, you know, go and do the things that brought you joy. Go rewatch the stuff, go replay the stuff, find some time to, you know, go remind yourself of why you got interested in these things. And then also go look behind the curtain of the stuff that you've enjoyed, and similarly like live through them in a way. And then I think if I had like one more thing, it's like, find something else that's completely unrelated to dabble in. For me, by accident, it's cooking. I'm not like a great cook necessarily. My wife is an amazing cook. I'm not just like she can do the thing where she's like, I taste coriander and cumin and, oh, is that a little bit, like she can just like identify stuff and then she can just like make things. I'm not that good. But you know, I have my cookbooks and my things that I'll use, or my recipes from online. And I have this thing where if I'm really stressed and burned out, typically I'll go hide in the kitchen and I'll like learn how to make a new thing that I'm like, you know what I love? Dumplings. I love dumplings. That's the most recent example where I was like, I'm going to make dumplings. And so my wife got me for my birthday or for Christmas, like a cookbook of various, different Asian foods that are delicious and amazing, which I love. And I've been working my way through various sections of the book. I've made orange chicken, I've made dumplings, I've made a couple other things, but I'm blanking. Anyway, that is not at all related to animation, but it's like refueling in a way that's just like my brain can be occupied by other things and it feels really nice and it's like empowering because I'm like, wow, I made this. And it's a form of creativity, but it's entirely different. And it's with my hands, and so it's good. So I don't know, hopefully something in there helps you. Burnout's rough. I don't think there's any one true answer, but that's what I've got for you. This is supposed to be rapid fire questions, and I'm just over here yapping. Let's see. Do I think Blender and Claude are faster than Maya in terms of speed? I have no idea. I don't use AI with, I don't use any kind of like AI infusion into the 3D tools. Let's see. How often do you use WorldBake animation? Any suggestions when we should use it? How often do you use WorldBake animation? I don't use WorldBake animation hardly at all in Maya, but I do it all the time in Unreal. So it just depends on the workflow and the types of shots you're doing. When you should use it, I don't know. Prop animation can be really handy. Interaction between a character and another object or another character can be really useful to get out of local spaces. Sometimes it's to get space switching can be really useful for all that kind of stuff. I don't know. That's a hard question to come off the top of my head. It's a good question, but I'd have to think about that. I did a lot of that in my Unreal stuff, but that's more just due to the necessity of like retargeting stuff. I do it a lot with motion capture workflows. I set up ground surface in Maya with PBR textures, but I zoom the camera, it looks unrealistic. Any solution? Higher quality textures and maybe some displacement? And I guess actually, let me rephrase that. If you've set up a ground surface in Maya and you've got textures, but when you zoom in, it looks unrealistic, the first thing I would say is, are you only using a diffuse channel? Because you need to be using specular, roughness, normals, like you need to be using the full suite of, use the full shader. First thing. Second thing is displacement goes a long way if normal's not doing enough. And then third thing is you might just need higher quality textures. Hello. Oh, hi. Hello. Oh, yeah? Here, the people want to see you. Hello. Hi. We're out of focus. Oh, now you're not in frame. Hello. Kitty cat. She wants dinner. We're gonna have to answer these questions and wrap this up. I'll leave it here so I'll try to answer questions. But I'll leave this camera on so we can hang out with her. Hi. All right, let's see. How do you control the pole vector and feel confident it's solid in pose and anatomy? How do you control the pole vector? I mean, you just move it around and compare it to your arm. For the most part, you just have to get used to it. There's no real solution to that other than just observation. I don't have access to the mocap suits anymore, so I can't get data anymore. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, there's a lot of stuff in the Rococo Motion library that you could download for free. If you go to Rococo, the suit company, go to Rococo, go to their website, download Rococo Studio, free app. You might have to make an account. When you boot up the software, there's a motion library section. That motion library at one point was even built into Maya. You could even just load it through Maya. I don't know if that's still there, but oh my goodness, you like these little ear scritches, huh? But yeah, go to Rococo Studio, jump in the motion library. There's some stuff that's like $3, $6, $12 or whatever, but there's a lot of free things. And it's all just raw Rococo data. Rococo data needs some cleaning up most of the time. And often there's no hands. Sometimes there's hands, but usually there's no hand data for most of the clips. So it's all really great stuff to have a before and after for your reel. Mixamo is also a thing, but Mixamo. But yeah, that's if you need mocap data, just to do something with, grab some stuff from Rococo, build a little sequence, and then clean it up. That's a really easy way. If you can, they have enough stuff that you can usually build something halfway decent. Obviously, you can't make a custom thing, but you could you could try they have Rococo Vision, the AI powered video processing version. I haven't tried that one in particular, but. Hello. Oh, she wants dinner. She wants to hang out. I'm gonna go back to this one. Working my way down the questions. Don't worry, I'm gonna get there. Let's see. Is it a good approach to initially make a good animation mechanic in order to create a game around it? Is it a good approach to initially make a good animation mechanic in order to create a game around it? Well, that I don't know. I mean, I think game mechanics. I just watched a video yesterday on good mechanics in bad video games. I didn't finish the video yet, but I started watching it. It was very interesting, but I doubt that a game is usually built around a mechanic. I think they might be together, but well, actually, I don't know. I'd be curious with Just Cause if they were we need a grapple hook explosion game, and then they built that around it or not. I don't know. Thanks, Paige. Just popping in to say hi. Good luck with your stream. Your inspiration for us all. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Hey, so do you think Maya or Blender is better at 3D animation? Which one provides better quality of life? I've never really dived deep into animation yet. It's a matter of opinion. I think generally, I think Blender's the better software. I think Maya has a better quality of life for animators because you have way more resources, help, tools. You have a foundation to work off of. But I think that Blender's like a better tool at this point. But I think for animators like Maya, you have a better quality of life. But it does depend on what you're doing. Like it depends on the project. There's some things that are better in Blender. Some things that are still, you should do in Maya. If you want to do 2D animation, Blender all the way. You can actually do 2D animation in Blender. Unreal is also a fair contender at this point. Not necessarily for everybody, but I've been using Unreal for a lot of freelance animation projects in the last year and a half. There was like a solid year that, except for mentoring and teaching, I didn't use Maya for anything. I just used Unreal for everything. I switched back and forth though. Hi, I just started 3D art. I'm interested in animation. From where should I start and what are the basic fundamentals I should learn? You should start with my YouTube channel. Honest answer, go through my videos and just start I have a couple playlists. If you go to my channel, go to playlists and then pick I don't know, Maya tutorials or animation mechanics or whatever. I have a different playlist for things. Honestly, just start with my videos. And then from there, you'll start to come up with more stuff to search to other people's stuff too. But I teach classes. I have my own courses and workshops, and that's all linked in the description. There's some summer stuff coming out if you're interested. But if you're just looking for an easy, free way to get started, I make YouTube videos and I specialize in teaching animation at this point. So that's what I would say. And as far as the basic fundamentals to learn, you should probably just look up, the answer you're going to hear from everybody is the 12 principles of animation, but I start with the videos in general. Love the yapping. More, please. Everybody, oh, yep, you're very popular, Loons. I definitely want to do more of these streams. This animation tech support was an idea I had recently. I'm going to be expanding it because I want to do dedicated Maya animation support where we do something where on Discord, you can drop your project files to me and I will open your file. I will go through the curve editor. I will help diagnose problems and fix your shot. And then I can send it back to you. I'll be your TD, essentially. That's what I would do during my mentorship. I was doing a group mentorship for a long time. It's on pause right now. It's been on pause for a year. But that was a big thing I loved doing was my students would send me their project files if they had a problem, and I would open them up and I would fix their stuff and I'd give it back to them. And I wasn't animating anything for them. It has to be their work. But in a studio, you have a TD. And so in some cases, I would act as the TD. And I would just assist with solving problems. Sometimes I'll just show you how to do it and then you can do it. But it can also be nice just to have the support of oh yeah, fixed. Whoop. Here's your constraint setup. Here's your this. Depends on where you're at. But anyway, I want to do more of these tech support type of things. I'm going to do some Maya animation ones. I want to do some Unreal tech support, which will be broader than just animation because I do a lot of work on Unreal. But yeah, I miss doing live streams. Also, my own personal goal. I don't know if goal is the right word. Aspiration, a wish, something I would really like. I don't plan on doing this on YouTube at all. This will not be something I do on my channel on YouTube. Maybe I'll do it on Twitch. Maybe I'll make a second channel anonymously and you'll never even know about it. But I want to play more video games and I want to play them on streams just because it's fun. Sometimes it's fun to have people to talk to about the games you're playing. I don't have very many people in my life who play video games, who at least play video games on the cadence that I do or the same games that I play. So most of the games I play, I just kind of play alone. And there's so many multiplayer games that I just wish I could play and I don't know anyone who plays them. So it's anyway, I yearn for a gaming community of some kind. And at the moment I just play solo. And I wish that I had some way to step more towards a community. And so I thought, well, I could play solo and stream games and that would be fun for me. And maybe it would lead to something else. developing down the road. I don't know, but that is not something I'm going to be doing on this YouTube channel because it doesn't make sense with my animation content, and YouTube will absolutely punish me for messing with the algorithm and, you know, crossing the streams of like gaming content and animation. That's not something I'll be doing here. Maybe I'll do it on Twitch because I still have my Twitch, and I don't really care as much about my Twitch at this point. So I might do it on Twitch. Or I might make like just like a new thing. But anyway, there's like certain games that I'm really interested to try, but I've kind of been hanging on to them in case I wanted to do something. Like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because there's games that I really like watching. I like watching other people play certain games, and so I thought it'd be fun if I tried to do them myself. Like some games that I've played like a few minutes of, but I've never properly played. Subnautica looks cool. That just came out. Outer Wilds, I think, is supposed to be really good. Never played that. There's some story games I'm really into that I want to try. Project Zomboid, I really want to play. I really want people to play with because I'm a wimp in games, and that is a scary game. Anyway, that's like a totally separate thing, but anyway. Point being, I want to do more live streaming, mostly animation stuff here, and then I have my own thoughts elsewhere. Am I going to be at GDC anytime next year? I didn't go this year. I don't know if I'll go next year. I've never had a reason to go to GDC. Twice I've been to like at a different conference, and then I've been like, oh, I'm in town. I can like go to GDC. I would like to go to GDC. I enjoy it, but I'm only probably going to go next year if I have a reason to. Like if I have, I don't know, if some company is going to pay me to go out there and do something, because it is too expensive for me to fly all the way to San Francisco, get a hotel. Like it's just too much to go to GDC on my own dime. So if some company wants to like sponsor my trip there and have me do something, then I'm down. But otherwise, probably not. I will be at Lightbox, though. I can't say more than that until Wednesday. I'm looking at the date, and I'm realizing I can't say more than that until Wednesday. But I will be at Lightbox. If anybody, I don't know if anyone here. If anybody here was at Lightbox last year, I did a bunch of stuff at Lightbox. I had 2 talks I gave. I gave a live demo, and I gave a talk presentation. I had a booth, and I threw the most killer animation after party ever. It was sweet. And we will 100% be bringing the stuff back this year. So if you're coming to Lightbox this year, it's going to be a good time. I'm going bigger and better than before. But I have to wait on my official announcements and plans. But, you know, get excited. That's in October in California and Pasadena. So I'll for sure be at Lightbox this year. That's my plan. Yeah. To elaborate, you can set the IK to follow, etc. Do you have a particular preference for the pole vector setup? Oh, I see what you're saying. Not really. I mean, I have the IK set to follow the hand, typically. I like when a pole vector has the option to pin, because then I can use it to like lock an elbow in place. But other than that, I don't really think about it too much. I honestly don't animate an IK very often with the hands. I typically stick to FK. So I don't have a lot of IK elbow tips because I'm usually using an FK skeleton for the arms. Unless I'm locking the elbow down to something, then I need a pin control. That's kind of it. That's kind of all I do. I'm almost exclusively FK for the arms. Hi, so we just finished art school. I remember watching a lot of your videos while studying. I always try to do my best, not because of the grades, because I love animation in general. That's excellent. That's a good way to be. That means that you're more likely to actually learn stuff. How'd art school go? Hopefully good. What's next? Hey, people are down for games. Sweet. I might use my Twitch. I don't know. Maybe. I would worry that if I did it on my Twitch, too many people would be like, hey, I've got some animation questions while we're here. Like, if I'm going to be gaming, I don't want to do animation while gaming. That's the only reason I'm like, maybe I should make a new channel for that, but it's not like I'm trying to really like build it into something. That'd be cool. If I could like be a game streamer, that'd be sweet. I do not expect, I'm not that funny. I'm not funny enough to be a game streamer as like as a thing, but that'd be fun. That was what I originally wanted to do. I mean, that was one thing I wanted to do when I was in college, is I wanted to do like Let's Plays and stream games, but I wasn't confident enough to do it alone. And the friends I had at the time were not real friends and were like, it's not going to work. Don't even try. And they discouraged me. So I didn't try it. It was a bummer. Don't listen to people. Do what you want to do. I'll be a rando in your multiplayer games. Bit of chaos, but I have a good mic and I'm willing to be a chaos demon. Love Zomboid. I have been wanting to play Project Zomboid for like 3 years at this point. Maybe more. I think I've been wanting to play Project Zomboid for like 3 or 4 years at this point. I've watched other people play it. I've downloaded it. I've like spent an hour here and there trying to understand how to play the game, like myself. But it's just one of those games where I'm like, it feels too scary to be in that world alone. And so I need something to like, I need like people in it or people to talk to about it or like something to sort of like take the pressure off, because I get very immersed into video games. Like any game I play, I get super like mentally into. And so like I really feel like I'm in there with the zombies and it's a little bit too much. I'm like, I need to have some kind of mental distraction. That's why I like RPGs so much. Definitely do it. I'm the same way with UAFN tutorial animation page, and I want to do more gaming stuff. Ah, that makes sense. I've been hearing about people. Lately, I've been hearing a lot about people. Oh, hi. Hello. I'm going to have to show you guys. Hang on a second. I'll come back to that question. Look at you. I don't even really see her. She's just here in my lap. Hello. I'll answer questions here. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about how AI will take our jobs, so I was wondering what's the viewpoint of something in the industry. It's rough. I mean, for me, the bottom line is this. AI is supposed to be a tool. And in some cases, you could say that accurately. At the same time, we're all fed up and have AI fatigue because everyone's trying to put it in everything, and half the time it's not even AI. It's just some feature that they call it AI to get investment money. And one of the big things is like stuff that's like AI-driven creativity looks really cool to people who have no skills. And unfortunately, all the people who control the money in our industry have no skills. All the executives and that kind of thing. So a lot of big decisions, financial decisions, are being made based on this idea of technology they don't really understand. That's not made for the needs we actually have in a production. And so there is an alternate timeline out there that, you know, we could have had AI tools that were actually useful, that were built ethically and deployed correctly, that we could be like, wow, these are like really helpful and cool. But unfortunately, the majority of the stuff we have is unethically created slop that's being deployed in the most just asinine ways that do not actually help us and are actively hurting our industry because people with money are making dumb decisions and stuff's like stealing IP. So I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it. Technologically, AI could be really powerful and helpful, but the way it's been done mostly is not that. It's mostly come to be a negative thing, which is unfortunate because it didn't have to be, but everyone's chasing money. So, and the people who could make it better and useful to us are not in the room with the people who are building the tools. Like the people who are building the tools are being told what to build by people who don't understand what we need. So anything creative AI is like typically pretty suckish. Could it change? Sure. Will it? It's unlikely, and at least not for a while. Jobs are being impacted. The industry is being affected. Not enough is being done to protect people. So I don't have like a blanket, like, I hate AI, because I actually see the value in the technology sometimes. But it depends very heavily on like training data and what it's for and how it was made and what company is doing it and things like that. So, you know, it's a big old complicated thing, but most of the time, bleh. And I'm sick of everything costing so much money and data centers being the problem that they are. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I don't know if that really answered your question. At the end of the day, here's the inspiration that you need. If you're asking that question and you're wondering what's going to happen with animation and AI, here's the answer that you should hold on to. I hope everybody here has watched Arcane. If you haven't watched Arcane, go watch Arcane. That's your homework. Arcane is a masterpiece of animation, of storytelling, of filmmaking. It's great. It's amazing. The world needs more Arcane. Not just that, but like we need more projects like Arcane, works of art, true storytelling. No computer, no AI could ever make something like Arcane. That was human creativity at its finest. So there will always be a need for people to make good art. Right now we're in a period where the people with the money don't recognize the difference yet between art made by people and visual stuff that looks fancy made by machines. But eventually, I think it'll have to correct. So it's rough right now. It's got to get better. We're always going to need artists because we always want an Arcane, and it takes people to do that. So hang on to that. Am I attending Lightbox? Yes, I am. I talked about that. Am I using AI for animation? I'm not. I don't use AI for any of my animation stuff. I've like dabbled with some tools here and there to like try some stuff and concept and whatever, but no, you got to do the animation for the love of the game. Gaming streams sound cool. Also, art school and amazing. Good. Glad to hear it. Zomboid's loads of fun with friends. I suggest 3 mods to make it playable without so much insta-permadeath. Oh, without as much insta-permadeath. I didn't even consider that. I've considered mods, but I never considered one where you can like... Oh, no, that's not true. I did see one where you can like, if you die in the game, you like respawn as a new person and you could go find your loot or something. Unless you mean something else. Yeah, see, like machine learning. Powerful. AI, crypto bro culture. Yeah, agree. Sir, I love animation and I use Maya, but I believe strong fundamentals matter more than software. I'm comfortable with acting, but during complicated shots, I sometimes struggle technically. You are right. Your craft matters more than your tools. However, it can be difficult to execute your vision without a strong grasp on the tools. And it's funny because I spend a lot of time teaching the tools, but I completely agree that it's more important to know the craft. It's just hard to execute your craft if you don't get the tools, which is why I spend so much of my energy on it. So, you know, that's what my videos are for. That's what my classes are for. That's why I have classes for craft and I have classes for software. What do you think of something like Cascadeur? I've seen Cascadeur. I have not tried it yet. I had a license for like a year and then I just never opened it because I was doing so many other things and I never got around to it. I meant to, just didn't. I don't know. It's like interesting for some stuff, sure. I personally never need it and I don't really, for my own needs, I don't really see the point. Like I'd rather just have the full control, but I understand its value. I understand the draw for like non-animators to be able to animate using something like that. I get it. But if you're an animator Like if you're trying to be an animator professionally to be able to get hired as an animator, then like you have to be able to do it on your own. It's the same thing I say with tools like, tools like Animbot, even within Maya. It's like you should know how to do a constraint, not just how to use the workaround for it. Same thing with Cascadeur. It's like if you want to be an animator, you should know how to animate and not have to rely on a tool that does a lot of your stuff for you. Once you've mastered it, if you want to save some time, sure, why not? But there's a time and place for that stuff. And so, seems interesting. I don't have a lot of experience with it. What streaming camera am I using? I'm using 2 cameras at the moment. This camera here is my Canon EOS R. It's a DSLR camera. It's the camera I used to shoot YouTube videos with years and years ago. And this camera, oh, that's Maya. This camera is this is the camera I shoot all my YouTube videos on. This is my Panasonic Lumix S5 2X. The fancy cameras. My streaming cameras are like proper cameras, and I have them wired into the computer. So they're not. I do have like a standard like Elgato webcam, which works just fine. I have the cameras. I may as well use them. I had to spend all the money on them at some point, so I may as well continue to get use out of them. But that's why it hopefully looks really good. If you want to hit me up for games, message me on. You know what I should do? I'll just do this. Anybody who's like down to game, just message me on Discord. It'll go into my message requests. I probably won't see it immediately, but like then I'll have it somewhere. Anybody who's like into gaming for all the stuff I said, message me on Discord and like drop some of your info. No guarantee I'll get back to you anytime soon. I haven't had time to play any games lately, but I will forget to reach out myself. But then when the time comes that I'm like, I need a game, I'll be like, oh yeah, I had a live stream, and like I'll know where to look to find stuff. Ouch, 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 ouch. Your nails are so sharp. Your claws. Oh yeah, GH5. That's a cool camera. Thing with Cascadeur is that I spend as much time to calculate the physics settings as I do the curve editor. Yeah. Yeah. Do you like Game with Golf? I have not played that before. All right, now how long have I been streaming at this point? I have been streaming for... How long has it been? Where's my... 2 hours. All right. I'll answer this last question, and then I'm going to dip. You have said you love animating with a tablet. How are your hotkeys or workflow setups? I've been trying different layouts myself. I prefer animating with a tablet, but to be honest, I stopped animating with a tablet because I haven't been animating as much as I've been doing other stuff. Well, I mean, let me clarify. I started doing so much stuff in Unreal Engine where like the hotkeys and things were different, and I was doing so much in Blender where I was like doing shot assembly. Like I was jumping around between tools so frequently that the amount of time I was spending using my tablet, because I stopped mentoring as much and I stopped doing as much like facial animation, which is the thing I really enjoy with the tablet. I started doing so many other things that I had the big tablet and I wasn't using it very often, so I stopped using it. It's in the closet. And so right now I'm just using a mouse. I have a little numpad because I have my keyboard that I built. I have my keyboard and I have my numpad and I have various hotkeys that I've created across that, different Animbot things, reset poses, a bunch of different graph editor stuff for curve breaking, curve unifying, auto tangent, flipping curves. I mean, I don't think I have like all that many things, hotkeys set up. I'm sure I have some, more than I think, but off the top of my head, I often don't change a lot of the keyboard stuff because I spend so much of my time teaching. Like because I'm helping so many people with Maya, with Unreal, with these tools, I'm always afraid that if I change everything and I get used to new keybinds, I'll forget what they originally were. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, so I just hit the G key. And people are like, my G key doesn't do that. And I'm like, oh, I guess I changed it. I don't remember what it was before. I don't want to be that person. So I always leave things as vanilla so I can always show people how to do things. So it kind of sucks. I've actually always been like bummed about that, but I've always done that on purpose so that I'm like always ready to be helpful, as opposed to all the teachers I had when I was in school that were like, yeah, I have a button for that, but I don't remember what it was. And I'm like, cool, thanks. So I don't have a lot of customization for that reason. Okay. I guess final things. Hopefully you enjoyed this like tech support stream. We also had just like regular Q&A stuff, but I mean, if you were here for the main part where I was trying to like help with questions, and what I want to do in the future is if you have a shot you're working on, if you have issues, if you're having like, you know, an assignment that you're struggling with or need some help on, my goal is to be able to have it to where you can share project files, you can ask questions, and I can be your animation tech support. We'll do Maya animation stuff. We'll do some Unreal ones. We'll do regular Q&A things as well, but this is something I want to try. I think it went well. Probably do another one soon. And I will also be, in a week, hopefully a week from today, I'll be announcing a bunch of new animation classes. So if that is of any interest to you, check the description down below and, you know, jump on the wait list. I've got some Maya and animation classes, and I've got some Unreal Engine classes as well. If you're interested in seeing what's coming out this summer, then check the links, because I'm going to be doing some teaching this summer of my own classes. So there'll be classes in July and August. And I'm not sure what else yet, but I'll definitely be doing July and August. So if you're into it, check out the links. Other than that, I'll see you in the next live streams. I guess turn on notifications if that's something you're into, because I think that's the only way to really know is to turn on notifications, but you know, whatever. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the conversation. This was a lot of fun. Here, if you want to see Luna. Hello. Hi. Can you say hi to the people? Yeah, you're like barely visible. Hello. Look at you. Anyway. See you guys later. Have a good night. Have a good week. Bye. How do I turn this off? Gotta get over to my... Get there eventually. All right. Bye, everybody.